in my case, I'm 100% right. I'm not asking for nothing y'all never done before. But in y'all case, y'all just want to win an argument instead of winning more games, in my opinion. It's just disappointing. They trying to do all this is crazy.
So Bengals first-round pick Shemar Stewart did not hold back with the media today, speaking rather bluntly and calling the organization out for seemingly caring about being right rather than wanting to win games, which is just one pretty crazy statement he made of several. So I've got to dig into the most recent update with that situation, talk about the Broncos bringing in a new running back, Anthony Richardson's shoulder injury appearing pretty concerning, and more right after. Alright, first up, mandatory minicamps are kicking off for teams this week, and things are not looking great over there in Cincinnati right now. Trey Hendrickson is in the middle of a holdout and didn't show up for minicamp, which was to be expected, and that's not really the part worth talking about here. To make matters worse, their first-round pick in edge rusher Shemar Stewart is currently holding in. So he is in there for meetings and going over the playbook, but is not practicing. Shemar actually spoke to the media today after practice, confirming that he won't practice until he signs on the dotted line. There's just a discrepancy going on with the contract, so he's not signing right now. He does want to be out there very bad with his teammates, saying it's important to him, and honestly, he really thought he would be out there on the field by now. Shemar added that at the end of the day, it is the Bengals' contract and they can offer what they want, but what he wants is a very simple fix, and he believes he's 100% in the right. Quote, so it should be a no-brainer. Basically, there's a clause in his contract saying a default by Stewart in any year of the contract would void all his future guarantees rather than just the year it occurred. That's how Cincy's previous contracts have worked, but they are trying to change it with Stewart this year. Well, he and his agent aren't having that and are standing their ground. The interesting part of all this is, since Stewart is yet to sign his contract, he actually cannot be fined for not participating in mandatory minicamp like Trey Hendrickson or any other player under contract that's holding out. It's a very interesting situation, and given the fact that the Bengals' Achilles heel last year was their defense, and it wasn't even close, you think they would be willing to shell out a bit of money for Trey Hendrickson and fix the language in Shemar Stewart's contract to get them both out there. After all, one of the biggest knocks on the Bengals, aside from their defense last year, just talking about several years, is the fact that they start slow, and key players holding out has been a part of that issue in years prior. Well, it very well could happen again this year if they aren't careful. Next up, Bills running back James Cook actually is present at minicamp and practicing, which is a bit of a surprise considering he made it known that he is seeking $15 million per year earlier on this offseason. He, just like pretty much everybody else holding out right now, is heading into the final year of his current deal, and he didn't show up to OTAs, so many people figured that James Cook would also hold out from minicamp as well. But nope, he is there and practicing, which is great for the Bills. Cook said he's there because in order to compete for a Super Bowl and have a winning season, I have to be out there with my teammates. However, he also said that he likes his money as a reason to why he's also there, meaning he didn't want to eat those fines and would rather have that money in his pocket instead. Now, I've broken down Cook's value in a recent video, but basically people are split on how much he deserves to be paid because while he is incredibly dynamic with the ball in his hands, he is subpar in pass protection and gets taken off the field a lot on obvious passing downs. That's why I'm curious to see what kind of a number, talking about average per year, Cook does end up getting upon a new deal. Will it actually be $15 million? That would tie him for the third highest paid running back in the NFL with Derrick Henry if he was able to pull it off. And staying with the running back news, J.K. Dobbins is staying in the AFC West and signing with the Denver Broncos on a one-year, $5.25 million deal. He visited with them last week and met with the coaches, but now it's official. He'll join Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, and rookie R.J. Harvey in the Denver backfield, and the addition of Dobbins definitely helps round out that room. He likely won't get as many touches as he did last year in L.A., but he should be a solid back to have in the rotation and will probably be one of the primary guys. Last year with the Chargers, he rushed for over 900 yards and 9 touchdowns in just 13 games after all. He did have an MCL sprain that put him on IR for 4 weeks, but that was actually the most games that he's played since his rookie year, and I'm sure he's hoping to build upon that for the 2025 season. Another running back I'm going to be interested in watching this year is Nick Chubb. We got our first look at him in a Texans jersey today, rocking number 21, and he officially signed with Houston yesterday on a one-year deal and is wasting no time getting back to work out there. He'll be sharing the backfield with Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce, so that's a really sneaky good running back room as long as everybody can stay healthy, and even if they can't, the addition of Nick Chubb certainly helps with their depth. They'll be taking handoffs from CJ Stroud, whose shoulder appears to be good to go after a little bit of a scare last week. Stroud didn't throw at practice as he was dealing with what they called a minor shoulder muscle issue. Head coach DeMeco Ryans assured everyone that there's nothing to be concerned about and that they were just taking extra precaution. Well, not everybody was buying that initially, considering Stroud has a minor history with that same shoulder. He had an AC joint separation back in college, then popped up on the injury report during his rookie year with the shoulder injury as well. However, he didn't miss any actual playing time in the NFL because of it. Well, today was a great sign because he was out there throwing passes looking like business as usual. He spoke with the media after practice and told them he didn't get surgery and it's no big deal. Well, hopefully that is indeed the case because sadly for another quarterback in the AFC South, his shoulder injury does look like a much bigger deal in comparison. And of course, I'm talking about Anthony Richardson. He aggravated the AC joint in his throwing shoulder during practice a couple weeks ago and is going to miss all of minicamp because of it. That report was obviously pretty concerning as he had shoulder surgery on that same joint during his rookie season and he missed most of that year. Well, last week, Shane Steichen said he won't need any kind of procedure done right now and that they will ease him back into throwing. However, he wouldn't put a timeline on his return, just said he expects him to be back sometime for training camp. Well, today, Steichen revealed that Anthony Richardson actually flew out to LA to meet with the doctor who performed his AC joint surgery back in 2023 in order to have it rechecked. Yeah, that isn't good to have to go back to your initial surgeon and maybe even get a second opinion on top of that after the Colts team doctors have been evaluating him as well. Holy smokes. Either way, Steichen shared that nothing has changed and the plan is still for Anthony Richardson to rest instead of getting surgery and then have him back out there for training camp. So he'll have roughly a month and a half to rest that shoulder, and then we'll find out pretty quickly where it's at once he starts throwing in camp. For now, Daniel Jones is running the show at minicamp, and I would assume he'll head into training camp taking the first team reps. They signed him to a one-year, $14 million deal with the expectation that he'd battle Richardson for the starting job. But shoot, depending on the status of his shoulder, Danny Dimes might just be given the job. It's also worth noting the Colts are reportedly bringing in former Falcons and Raiders QB Desmond Ridder on a workout this week, which is essentially a tryout. So you could look at that as the Colts are just doing their due diligence here with AR status up in the air. Yet at the same time, they do need another abled body in there for camp, and he could potentially be the team's QB2 if push came to shove, especially when you look at their depth chart. Hopefully, AR's shoulder can get right, and that won't ever be needed, at least for this year. Next up, the Vikings locked up tight end Josh Oliver on a new 3-year extension. It's a $23.25 million deal with a max value of $27.5 million, and it also includes $19.9 million guaranteed, which is pretty solid. Oliver isn't really known for his pass catching prowess. He's more of a blocking tight end, but he's a very good one. In fact, since he signed with the Vikings in 2023, he's been the second highest graded blocking tight end in the league over those 2 years. They've made the run game a priority this offseason as well, signing Ryan Kelly and Will Fries along the O-line. They then spent their first-round pick on guard Donovan Jackson, who also has some tackle experience. Then they traded for running back Jordan Mason from the Niners and re-signed Aaron Jones, so this move in extending Oliver should come as no surprise. And then with the Packers releasing Jair Alexander yesterday, they're getting a bit creative in trying to add to their cornerback room because today, wide receiver Bo Melton was out there working with the cornerbacks during individual drills. To a lot of people's surprise, he was still wearing his white offensive practice jersey, rocking number 80, but it's certainly an interesting development and one some fans are worried about in regards to Green Bay's cornerback depth, which I'll touch on in a moment. But first, Melton was a 7th-round pick by the Seahawks back in 2022 and was signed off their practice squad by the Packers in his rookie season. He since has been stuffed down the depth chart a bit behind Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks. On top of that, they just added Matthew Golden, who they drafted in the first round, a first-round wide receiver for the Packers. Hasn't happened in a very long time. So they're very excited about that. It's a very crowded wide receiver room and one that Bo only managed to catch 8 passes for 91 yards in last year. He contributed more on special teams, but Packers GM Brian Gutekunst, hope I said that right, spoke to the media today and said that him playing corner is just a possibility they're exploring. He said they love his play on special teams and the coaching staff was open to seeing him play on defense, which is something they've actually talked about or at least tossed the idea around for a couple of years now. His brother Max Melton is actually a starting cornerback for the Cardinals, and Bo did play some cornerback in high school, not really in college, but hey, maybe it runs in the blood and he could get caught up real quick. It would be a pretty wild story if Bo actually panned out at corner, but hey, as a former 7th round pick who hasn't gotten much playing time yet in his career, I'm sure he's willing to do whatever it takes just to ensure a roster spot, although this would seem a bit of a desperate move for the Packers if this is the route they decide to go for their cornerback depth. The release of Jair Alexander leaves Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, and Nate Hobbs to be the presumed starters, but after that, the room is pretty unproven. The route that might make more sense altogether is them exploring the free agent cornerback market. After all, Asante Samuel, Rasul Douglas, Stephon Gilmore, those guys are still out there and could likely be signed to pretty affordable one-year deals, especially in comparison to the money they just saved by releasing Jair. And then, of course, Jalen Ramsey still wants out of Miami and is excused from Dolphins minicamp this week because the Dolphins also want him out of Miami. I digress about the Dolphins, but all that to say, the Packers are in a kind of a weird spot here in regards to their cornerback room, specifically the depth. If you're having a wide receiver try to fill one of those roles, again, they would primarily use him as a special teamer, and maybe he just ends up as a cornerback on the depth chart. But if injuries actually hit the room, that would be kind of scary, and it makes me believe they are probably going to add a veteran in free agency here sometime maybe before training camp. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below. The Packers trying out a wide receiver in the cornerback room, and with that, I'll see y'all next time.